This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to How Your Legal Rights Actually Work. I'm excited to dive into Chapter 2 because housing drama is real, and way too many people don't know what their landlord can actually get away with. Today we're breaking down exactly what rights you have as a tenant and what your landlord is legally required to do for you. Let's get into it. Right now, in the US, roughly a third of households are renting. Yet, most renters don't actually know what their landlord is not allowed to do. You're asleep, there's a knock, your door opens. Is that legal or a violation you could fight in court? Think of your rental as a tiny legal ecosystem. Lease terms, local ordinances, state statutes, and federal protections all interacting, whether you've read them or not. Your landlord isn't just the person you pay, they're more like one player in a tightly refereed game, with rules about how they can raise rent, handle repairs, access your unit, and return your deposit. Those rules quietly shape daily life. How fast your heat must be fixed in winter. What happens if mold shows up? Whether a no pets clause can trump a service animal, or how far a late fee can go before it turns into an illegal penalty. And layered on top of that are fair housing protections that limit why a landlord can say no in the first place. Once you see this web, you can start spotting when something is off, and when policy is just a bluff. Zoom in a bit further, and you'll see that power in this ecosystem isn't evenly distributed. Your landlord probably knows the rules, or has a lawyer. You probably don't. That's one reason eviction courts are so lopsided. Most tenants walk in alone. The law tries to rebalance things with extra guardrails, limits on self-help tactics like lockouts, notice rules for entry, and caps on how much of your money can be held as a security deposit. Layered on top, local rules can quietly boost your leverage, like requiring interest on deposits or forcing clearer itemized deductions when you move out. Start with how the law quietly divides your rental into zones of control. Inside the four walls, you control how you live, who visits, what time you sleep, which streaming service hums in the background. Outside those walls, your landlord controls the building, the grounds, and the business side of renting. Housing rules kick in where those zones touch: money, access, and move in, move out. On money, the law focuses less on how nice the place is and more on how predictable the deal is. That's why there are rules about when rent is due, how late fees can be structured, and what has to happen before the amount you pay can change. Even with flexible payment apps and portals, the official record is still your lease plus your state and local law. Screenshots, bank statements, and text threads can all become evidence of what's really been happening, especially when the story in court is different from the story in the group chat. When it comes to access, technology is increasingly the battleground. Smart locks, video doorbells in hallways, key fob systems, and Wi-Fi-enabled thermostats all collect data about how and when you use your home. Some courts have started to treat unjustified surveillance or data misuse as an invasion of privacy or even a form of harassment. The law hasn't caught up to every gadget yet, but a useful rule of thumb is, if a tech feature would feel creepy coming from a stranger, it probably shouldn't be normal coming from your landlord. Move in and move out are where small details can swing hundreds or thousands of dollars. A rushed key handoff with no walkthrough, no photos, and no written list of pre-existing issues essentially invites future conflict over damage versus wear and tear. Think of a pre-move-in inspection like a medical baseline exam. The clearer the before picture, the harder it is later for someone to claim a long-standing condition was your fault. Your challenge this week: even if you're not moving, document your baseline. Take time-stamped photos or video of every room, every appliance, and any issues. Then email the files to yourself with the subject line, rental condition, address, date. You're not accusing anyone of anything. You're quietly building the record you'll wish you had if things ever go sideways. Think of the more subtle pressure points, where things feel off but not dramatic enough to call 911. Your landlord suddenly adds a convenience fee for paying online that wasn't in your lease. They start texting you at midnight about minor issues. A security camera appears in a common hallway pointed right at your door. None of this looks like a classic lockout, but taken together, it can start to blur into harassment, or at least into behavior your local rules might limit. Technology makes these gray areas louder. Key fob logs can show whether a claim that you never use the place is actually true. Smart thermostats can undercut a story that you refuse to heat the unit and cause damage. Even your own screenshots of rent portal errors, unread repair requests, or shifting fee structures can turn a fuzzy dispute into a sharper narrative. Your challenge this week: pick one ongoing friction with your landlord, fees, repairs, communications, building tech, and document every interaction about it for 7 days. Time, date, exact wording, and any screenshots or photos. At the end, ask, is there a pattern? Did verbal promises match written follow-up? If you spot a mismatch, take one concrete step. Look up your city or state housing authority website and see whether there's an FAQ, hotline, or guide that addresses that specific pattern. Eviction data dashboards and smart building logs are starting to function like weather reports for housing stress. They don't stop the storm, but they show exactly where it's hitting. As more cities guarantee lawyers in eviction court, those data streams become case evidence, not just policy charts. Add climate extremes and large corporate landlords, and we edge toward a world where habitability might include cooling standards, data use rules, and auto alerts before problems ever reach a courtroom. Laws, apps, and data tools are slowly turning that tangled web of housing rules into something you can actually use. Think of legal aid chats, tenant rating portals, and city heat complaint maps as instruments in a band. Each is limited alone, but together they can amplify your voice so it carries past your landlord's inbox and into rooms where decisions stick. Before next week, ask yourself, how clearly do I understand what my lease, or local tenancy law, says about repairs, entry notice, and rent increases, and what's one concrete right I'll look up today, for example, required notice before a landlord can enter. If my landlord did something tomorrow that felt off, like changing the locks, threatening eviction by text, or ignoring a no heat in winter situation, what specific steps would I take, and where would I go first for help? Tenant union, legal aid, housing authority? Looking at my current housing situation, is there any ongoing issue, like chronic mold, unsafe wiring, or surprise inspections, that might already violate my rights? And what's one piece of evidence I could start collecting today? Photos, dated notes, copies of messages, to protect myself. This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!